November, 1930. Lake Anjikuni. A remote stretch of frozen wilderness in what is now Nunavut, Canada. Population, roughly 30 men, women, and children. Then, one day, they vanished. Every single one of them. No bodies. No signs of struggle. No footprints in the snow. Just an abandoned village, frozen in time. Cooking pots still sat over dead fires. Rifles leaned quietly against tent poles. And outside, the sled dogs had starved to death. What happened to the people of Lake Anjikuni remains one of the most chilling mysteries ever recorded in the Arctic. But what if the real explanation isn't folklore, or legend? What if something strange happened in the sky above that village on the night they disappeared? This is the story of the vanishing village of Lake Anjikuni. The frozen stage. To understand this mystery, we first need to understand the place where it happened. Lake Anjikuni lies deep in the Kavalik region of the Canadian Arctic. Today it is remote. But in 1930 it was practically unreachable. There were no roads. No aircraft routes. No modern communication. Reaching the area required weeks of travel by dog sled, canoe, or snowshoe across one of the harshest environments on Earth. Winters here can drop below -40 degrees Celsius. Blizzards can erase entire landscapes overnight. Yet the Inuit who lived here were masters of survival. For centuries they had learned how to live in harmony with the Arctic. Every decision mattered. Every resource was precious. Food was hunted and carefully stored. Clothing was sewn from animal hides. Tools were crafted with precision. Life was difficult, but it was sustainable. The small village at Lake Anjikuni was home to about 30 people. Families who depended on one another for survival. Their homes were a mixture of skin tents and sod houses known as karmak. Together they formed a tight community bound by kinship, tradition, and shared hardship. To abandon a settlement like this, especially in November, as winter tightened its grip, would have been unthinkable. Leaving meant certain death. And yet, according to the reports, that is exactly what appeared to have happened. The witness. The man who discovered the mystery was a veteran fur trapper named Joe Labelle. Labelle was no stranger to the Arctic wilderness. He had spent decades traveling the frozen north, trading furs and navigating remote territories most people would never survive. He knew the land. He knew its dangers. And he knew the Inuit communities that lived throughout the region. In late November of 1930, Labelle was traveling through the area when he decided to stop by the settlement at Lake Anjikuni. He had visited the village before. He expected to see smoke rising from cooking fires. He expected to hear voices. And most of all, he expected to hear the barking of sled dogs. But as he approached the village, something felt wrong. There was no smoke. No movement. No sound. Just silence. A silence so complete it felt unnatural. Labelle walked cautiously into the settlement. And what he discovered would shock even a man as hardened as him. The village was empty. Completely empty. Inside the tents and houses he found cooking pots still sitting over cold fire pits. The food inside had frozen solid. Caribou meat remained in storage caches. Animal skins lay half prepared for tanning. Nothing had been packed. Nothing had been taken. Even the villagers' rifles, valuable tools essential for hunting and survival, had been left behind. No one in their right mind would abandon their weapons in the Arctic. But the most disturbing discovery waited outside. Labelle found the sled dogs. Every single one of them. They were still tied to their posts. Buried partially beneath the snow. Dead from starvation. The villagers had not simply left. They had disappeared. And the dogs had been left to die. But the strangest detail of all lay at the edge of the settlement. The burial ground. The stone cairns marking the villagers' ancestors had been disturbed. Rocks had been moved. Graves appeared partially opened. It did not look like the work of animals. It looked deliberate. Something had happened here. Something deeply unsettlingly. The investigation. Shaken by what he had seen, Joe Labelle traveled for days to reach the nearest Royal Canadian Mounted Police post. When he arrived, he reported the entire story. At first, the officers struggled to believe it. But the claims were too serious to ignore. An entire village of people did not simply vanish. The RCMP launched an investigation. Officers traveled to the remote settlement to confirm Labelle's report. What they found only deepened the mystery. The village was exactly as Labelle had described it. Food still in cooking pots. Weapons left behind. Supplies untouched. But the most baffling discovery was the ground itself. There were no footprints leaving the village. Not a single trail leading away. This was nearly impossible. If 30 people had left the settlement, their tracks would have been visible in the snow for miles. But investigators found nothing. It was as if the villagers had simply vanished from the center of their lives. The official explanation was weak. Authorities suggested the group might have relocated to another settlement. But nearby Inuit communities reported no new arrivals. No one had seen them. No one knew where they had gone. The mystery remained unsolved. The strange lights. As the story spread, additional reports began to surface. Some fur trappers in the region claimed they had seen something unusual in the sky around the same time. A strange pulsating blue light. Hovering above the wilderness. Others claimed they had heard a faint whistling sound carried across the wind. At the time these accounts were dismissed as exaggerations or folklore. But decades later, a surprising discovery would make those strange details impossible to ignore. The skeptics. In modern times many historians have attempted to debunk the Anjikuni story. Some argue that the entire tale was exaggerated by newspapers. Others claim the settlement may have been temporarily abandoned. And some skeptics believe the story was simply a legend that grew larger over time. But there is one problem with those explanations. They ignore a different source of evidence entirely. Not stories. Not newspapers. But scientific data. Data collected from the Arctic sky itself. The turning point. Recently, researchers reviewing historical atmospheric records uncovered something strange. In the late autumn of 1930, instruments in the Arctic recorded unusual anomalies. Magnetic disturbances. Low-frequency sound waves. And strange atmospheric activity centered around one specific area. The region surrounding Lake Anjikuni. In other words, the sky above the village was behaving strangely at the exact time its people vanished. Could this explain the reports of a strange blue light? Could it explain the mysterious whistle some witnesses described? And more importantly, could it explain what happened to the villagers that night? For nearly a century the disappearance of the Lake Anjikuni villagers has remained a mystery. But new scientific evidence suggests something unusual may have occurred above the Arctic sky that winter. Something powerful. Something rare. Something capable of affecting the human mind itself. In the next chapter of this story, we dive into the data. The strange atmospheric anomaly recorded in 1930. And the terrifying possibility that the villagers didn't simply disappear. They ran. Fleeing from something in the sky. And into the frozen wilderness, where no one could ever find them again.